So here is your title on your paper, Lesson 2 from our Quadratics unit. And we're going to talk about factoring binomials with algebra tiles. This prefix bi means two. So we're going to talk about factoring things inside parentheses that have two parts, kind of like that example that we just did from Monday's homework. But today we're going to get that visual of using algebra tiles to represent this factoring. So your learning target today is I can model factoring with algebra tiles and then follow along with the notes, and then you will get some homework to do there at the end of the lesson. So again, if I have a tendency to go too quick and you need me to go back to a slide or you're not ready for me to move on, please let me know. There is some drawing that you're going to need to do on your notes today, but just let me know if I'm going too fast. All right, so remember we talked about the area model. It was either last week or the week before, where we took 2x plus 3, here's our 2x plus 3, and our 3x plus 1. And then we took these numbers on the outside. We did 3x times 2x to make 6x squared. We did 1 times 2x to make 2x. I did 3x times 3 to make 9x, and then we did 1 times 3 to make 3. We did that a couple weeks ago, actually. And so we're going to take that idea of what we know about area models, and we're going to actually apply it to using algebra tiles. Now, one of the things to keep an eye out for is, notice I have them color coordinated, and their colors are specific to what their terms are. So I've got 6x squared, and I've got 9x, and I've got 2x, and I've got 3. And so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on taking those algebra tiles that would be in underneath in the middle right here, and we're going to make a rectangle with them. Okay? So I'm just going to move this little square here out of the way, this rectangle. So this is what it would look like using those algebra tiles. So we know that I've got 2x plus 3. Notice across the top I've got 2 x's, and then I've got 3 singles. I know the colors are different than what we've used for algebra tiles, but the shapes are mainly what we're focusing on here. And then on the left-hand side, I've got my 3x and my 1. Now, if I look at each of those areas, I've got 6x squared, and notice I've got 6x squared tiles. I know that 3x times 3x is 9x. There's 3, 6, 9. And then I know 1 times 2x is 2x. And then 1 times 3 is 3. Notice each of these shapes, or all of these tiles put together underneath this, form a rectangle. And that's the goal. If you can't make a rectangle out of them, then we actually say that it's not factorable. But for the sake of today's lesson, everything should be factorable. So I'll let you get have an opportunity to get those at least sketched on your paper. If you have color pencils handy, great. Otherwise, just label them what their tile names are. While you're getting that picture sketched, this form where it's all in parentheses like this, we call this factored form. And then when we talk about all the stuff on the inside, we call that expanded form. And remember, we talked about simplifying it to look for like terms. And so we know that 9x and 2x, when we put them together, that makes 11x. So we would say, get this out of the way. So this is our trinomial. This is our answer in expanded form. 6x squared plus, there's 11 green x's, so 11x plus 3. This again is expanded form. And we know that this is the factored form. Okay, factored. I'm more concerned about knowing factored and expanded, not so much binomial and trinomial, but just to point something out. These are binomials because they each have two parts in them. This one is a trinomial because it has three parts, like a tricycle, triangle. Okay, so again, we call this the factored form. And then we call this other one the expanded form. Write that down. When you are ready for me to move on, if you just click the little raise hand button so I know, that would be great. All right, again, if you can click the little raise hand button when you are ready for me to move on, I would appreciate it. Keep the little button clicked. That would be awesome. All right, a little bit more time. Get that picture drawn or those diagrams sketched. All right. The majority of you are ready to go. So again, I will get this video posted when we are all done, and the notes are also, or the slides are also in on the Schoology folder. So if you want to come back and check those as well. Okay, let's look at our second example. So here I've got this pile of tiles. You can unclick the little raise hand buttons, folks, if you'd like. So here I've got this pile of tiles, for lack of a better phrase. And I've got the expression 6x squared plus 11x plus 3. So this is the one from the previous slide. Notice that all of these tiles are put together to make a rectangle. And your goal is to factor them. So what you're going to do is take a look at your tiles and you're going to count what you have just along the edge in terms of the length. Okay, remember the length of the side of the x squared is x long. And then the little width, I should have switched colors here. Let me do this. It's x long. And the width of the x tile, this little length, because it matches up with that single, has a length of 1. So if I was to sketch algebra tiles right here, I would sketch 3 X tiles and a 1. So go ahead and add that to your drawing. Out of the way. And then we can do the same thing for up above, right? So we're going to count what we have going across. I've got X plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So then I can move this off to the side as well. So once you know the tiles that go on the top and this side here, then you're going to write that algebraic expression to represent them. It's a math sentence. So a math sentence has this equal sign. So you're going to count, and it doesn't matter which order if you do the ones on the top versus the one on the side, because we know that multiplication is commutative, meaning you can switch the order, and it'll still give you the same answer. So as I'm counting this, I've got 1, 2, 3 X's plus 1, and I've got 1, 2 X's plus 3. So I can write that math sentence with the factored form, 2x plus 3 times the quantity of 3x plus 1. Again, this form is factored. And if you think about what you know about factors of a number, they're two numbers that you multiply to get that number. All right, and when you've got these sets of parentheses, these mean to multiply. And again, this long version is what we call expanded. So if you think of like a rubber band, you can expand a rubber band by pulling it longer and using what we know, expanded. All right, when you've got what you need from this slide, click the little raise hand button so I know I can move on. All right, again, click the little raise hand button when you're ready for me to move on to our next slide. All right, again, as the last one, most of us look like we're ready to move on. So we're going to do this next one, example number 2. So the same thing with example number 2. So we've got all these algebra tiles, and they are put underneath. Again, notice that they are in the shape of a rectangle. That's the key here, making sure that those algebra tiles form to make a rectangle. Okay, and you're asked to factor, which means, again, you're looking for what tiles are going to go above that little grid line thing and what tiles are going to go to the left of the little grid line thing. Okay, so how about up above? What tiles will we see here? You can either unmute and tell me, or you can type it in the chat. Which tiles will we see up here at the top? That's it. We've got the x from this x squared, and then because these are red x's, we need not 1, -1, but we need the 2. So there's our first factor. X minus 2 is our first factor. Okay, and then how about here? Anybody? Oh, Emma, thank you. Right, so I've got these two x's, and then I've got this plus 1. So I've got 2x plus 1 is one factor, and I've got x minus 2 is the other factor. So our factored form is x minus 2 and 2x plus 1. Again, this is factored form, so when you're asked to factor, you have those squares, those tiles underneath that form that rectangle, and then you basically count the length of each side to represent or to get yourselves that algebraic expression. Again, x minus 2 and the quantity of 2x plus 1 is factored form, and then 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 is our expanded form. All right, one last example. So you're going to be asked to do this as well. So you're going to be given a blank grid, and you're going to need to figure out what needs to go underneath and how they're going to go in place in order to make that rectangle like we saw in examples 1 and 2. So I've got a pile with 2x squareds, and I've got some 7x's, and I've got some 6's right here. So what I can do is take each of those tiles and, whoa, I thought I had them here. Oop, I thought I had a box to do it. Oh, let's see, let me move those back. All right, so I've got each of these tiles, and now what I want to do is put them in place so that it shows me this 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So I've got a stack, well, if I do this, there's my 2x squareds. What do you think I should do? Where do you think I should drag some of these x tiles to go? What do you think? Like below here? Okay, and then I also know that if I've got 2 of these here, yeah, this is a rectangle, but I also need to have, eventually I'm going to have 6 singles over here, right? So I know that I need this 1 right here, right? Because I need at least 6. Because whatever's up here times whatever's here is going to fill this in. Well, and now I notice that since I extended this by 1, I'm going to have to put this guy here, right? Well, I still don't have 6 of my things, so I think I'm going to try this one. Let's see what happens here. So it's a rectangle, but I still don't have my 6. So if I, let's see, will it work if I do this? Let's see. Dragging and dropping, right? Piles of tiles. All right. That make a rectangle for what we have? It does, right? The big idea here is that we needed to make sure that we keep filling it in. I would suggest that you start with both the x squared term and then the single term and try to figure those out, and then you fill in the x's based on what you have with those singles and the x squareds. So then what we do is we take a look at this, and I've got x, 1, 2, 3, so I've got 2 x's. I don't know if I have enough single tiles. We'll see what I got here. 1, 2, 3. So one of my factored forms is 2x plus 3. And then I've got x and 2. Okay, so again, the big idea is to make sure all those tiles in underneath it. Oh, where'd you put that? Make sure all those tiles in underneath it are in a rectangle, because once it's in a rectangle, it's just like finding the area of the rectangle, right? The length times the width. So then I've got 2x plus 3, and I've got x plus 2 would be my factored form. So as you are working on today's homework, if you want some tiles, it's not an interactive one, I don't think, on the homework, but you could always make a copy of this lesson. So you've got these tiles to play with, or you could cut some, I don't know, paper out at your house and make your own algebra tiles if you want. So again, the big idea is making sure that you've got this rectangle underneath, and then you just find the length and the width of that rectangle. That gives you the factored form. And then the expanded form is simplifying in underneath. I don't know what you call those grid line things, the X and the Y lines, or the T-table thing. All right, so on your paper, what do you need to do to factor a trinomial into 2 binomials? What was like the one thing I kept saying to you about those tiles underneath? That have to be true in order for you to get that complete factored form. You know you're not supposed to bark. No, 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 no. All right, so your assignment today, you head into Schoology, you will see a worksheet called CCA 2. It's your homework to go along with this one. And then when you're finished, you are going to take a picture and put it on your DUR 4, like you've been doing. I did not look at the first assignment yet. So if you have that first assignment added, thank you very much for getting that done and posted. I hope to get it my plan is to get it done this weekend. Okay. So when you've got everything that you need, go ahead and head into Schoology and open up that worksheet number 2. Oh my goodness, I forgot I was on mute. All right, so now that you are at this point, you're going to head into Schoology, find that worksheet number 2. You can either print it off or sketch it in your notebook. And like you already know how to do, post that picture of your completed assignment on your DUR. Also, there's a few of you who still have not taken that test from last week. I need you to get that done this weekend so I can get it graded and in the grade book, please. Frankie, come here. Come. Frankie. Hey, Frankie, come. Come here. No. No bark. Hey, come. We're okay. We're okay. Yes, they're outside. We're okay. We're inside. No bark. Okay? No bark. You can watch them, but no bark. Yes, you watch, but no bark.